Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Matt, here to give you a brief review of Game 7 between the Bruins and the Leafs. And listen, sometimes it's just not meant to be. It seems that whenever the Leafs play the Bruins come out on top. And everyone and their mother this year was saying the Leafs are a different story. They got Matthews, they got Tavares. Matthews is in his prime. Tavares is a new player. They're going to win the cup. They're the best team in Canada. Heck, they're the best team in the world. Guess what? They're not better than the Bruins because they couldn't win Game 7. But first, before I give my thoughts, I want to give a brief recap of the entire game. Okay, just very brief here. So, the Bruins won 5-1. And judging by the score, it seems like it wasn't really close. This was more of a contest than it may seem. There was a lot of goals later on in the third period. But Joachim Nordstrom, who I'm looking at his photo, and it may be the whitest guy I've seen on earth, he scores the first goal, his second of the series, followed by Marcus Johansson, unassisted. Now, it says unassisted. I beg to differ. Jacob Gardner gave him a beautiful pass. And for all of you who don't know, Jacob Gardner was -5 in last year's Game 7. And then he starts off this first period, gives a beautiful pass to Johansson to put his team behind by 2. Now, the thing about Toronto media, for those of you outside of the country, or for those of you outside of Toronto, the thing about Toronto media, they love to exaggerate everything. If you go and ask Phil Kessel, he hated the media. He hated answering questions in Toronto. They love to exaggerate. And the storyline of the game, I bet you everything. I bet you my left testicle, the storyline is going to be Jacob Gardner sucks. Get rid of him. We don't want to sign him. They're going to basically put the blame on him like they did last year. I don't think it was as bad as last year. I mean, last year was pretty epic, -5. And what, they gave up 5 goals. He was on the ice every goal. That was pretty epic. But as I go on, John Tavares scored his second goal. Now, John Tavares, I'll get to him later. But for those of you who saw John Tavares as the savior of Toronto, I think you're proven wrong in this series. But we'll get to him later. He scores his second and a very important goal. And we saw it with Tampa. The Stars weren't showing up. And then, boom, Stamkos and Kucherov score in the elimination game. In the third period, Sean Kuraly scores an excellent goal, and a goal that I think Anderson might want to look at that one again. Anderson, as Don Cherry says, is the best goalie in the NHL. Now, I disagree with that statement. I disagree with it strongly. I do not think he's the best goalie in the world. I do think he's a very, very solid goalie, though. And I don't think that the Leafs would be nearly as high as they are in the standings if not for Anderson. I don't think that was a good goal. A goalie, a number 1 goalie of his caliber, who's a borderline Vezina nominee, but just, not quite in that category, but he's up there, should not be giving up a goal like that. It seemed like his glove hand wasn't high enough. You're supposed to be square with the shooter, lift that glove hand, and once he shoots it, boom, catch it. It seemed like that glove hand was a little too low. So once he shot a glove side, he kind of did that with his shoulder. And I don't know. I'm not a goalie expert, as you can tell, but I don't think that was a really good goal. And then newly acquired Charlie Coyle, who's been playing some great hockey, in my opinion, scored his third. And then just going down here, Patrice Bergeron scored his third unassisted, and then it was just out of reach at that point. No longer a game. So the Bruins beat the Leafs yet again in a Game 7. It seems like it's clockwork at this point. And after going through that recap, I just want to talk individually about both teams. Congratulations to the Bruins. And sorry if you're a Leafs fan. But there's a few things I need to get out of the way. First of all, your superstar, Austin Matthews. Last playoffs, he was not good. I think he had 2 points in the whole series. That's just not going to cut it for a player his caliber. And many people said, guys, give him a chance. He's a 20-year-old. You can't put everything on him. You can't put it all on his shoulders. And quite frankly, those people were right. This series, he was very good. He scored goals at very important moments. And I thought at times, he started off a bit shaky, but at times, he was all over the ice. And along those lines, Mitch Marner was also really good. And you guys got to think, you Leafs fan, if Matthews makes that much money, how much is Marner going to ask? This team is in salary cap hell. And I don't think they realize it yet because they went and gave Nylander that ridiculous contract that I don't think they should have given it to him. And we'll get to Nylander later. Trust me, that pretty boy doesn't get off with me. Okay, that sounded sexual. Okay, now Tavares, on the other hand, I think it looked like he struggled at times. I don't think Tavares was all that good in this series. He had flashes, but in most of the games, I thought he wasn't that much present. And when they really needed a goal, he wasn't always there. And if people are willing to give crap to Matthews last year, I hope the same people point the finger at Tavares because I don't think he was all that good. Maybe I'm making it sound worse than it is, but I don't know. I find a player of his caliber should have more than 2 goals. What do you guys think? Please leave a comment if you disagree. Now, we get to the whole Kadri situation. In Game 2 of the series, Kadri stupidly cross-checked DeBrusk in the face. And as you guys know, he was suspended for the rest of the playoff series. Okay? That was a very costly suspension. And the reason why is because Kadri is an important piece for the Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs have a top 6 that can contend with any team. The problem with the Leafs is their bottom 6, and it's their defense, and maybe a few inconsistency in goals. But definitely that bottom 6 in the defense. Kadri was really a good bright spot of that bottom 6. He was a really solid third-line center. I would even go as far as to say he's an elite third-line center. Maybe, not so much if he's a second-line center. Yeah, maybe. He's definitely not a first-line center, but he's an elite third-line center. And he went and got suspended over something stupid. And what the management did, what the team did, the Leafs, is that they tried playing Nylander at center. And Nylander, I think his natural position is wing. I think he looks more comfortable at wing. And having to put Nylander at center, I think the one word to describe his play this series is caca. He played like caca. I don't think Nylander played a really good series. I think that contract looks kind of bad because I think if I had to give the shit medal to one of the players on the Leafs, it would be Nylander. Especially that one game. Was it game, 3 or 2, where he had that horrible, horrible giveaway, kind of like what Matthews had this game. Okay. Well, Nylander replaced Kadri, and he wasn't all that good. Kadri is an important part. They need him. He can't keep getting suspended. And I think his habit, his knack to get suspended, will eventually get him traded from the team. I don't see Kadri being with the Maple Leafs in the future. They're in crunch with the salary cap. He's let them down in the playoffs. Second time against the Bruins, he gets suspended. I think the Leafs are going to shock the hockey world and trade him. And I think a possible destination for him is his childhood team. In case you guys don't know, Kadri is a Montreal Canadiens fan. And Montreal Canadiens have a boner for centers. Their center is a position they're weak on, so they've just been drafting centers. And I wouldn't be surprised if they try acquiring for a center. So we'll see about Kadri. Now, let's switch off to the other team, the Bruins. Now, the Bruins, they're kind of a team. I don't think they're a bad team. I don't think any team in the playoffs are bad. They're just kind of a middle-of-the-road team, in my opinion. They have some, top-notch, maybe top-5 talent in Bergeron. The thing about Bergeron is that he might not get as many points as a Pasternak or a Marchand, but he's just a complete player. And he's almost like having another defenseman. And as you guys may have seen, again, he was nominated for the Selke Trophy. Um, he's just like having an extra defenseman out there. He's really a modern day Bob Gainey, and I think he will definitely win this year. And as much as I hate the Bruins and as I hate the Leafs for that matter, I think that Bergeron is a really respectable player. And any team and any player entering the league nowadays should model themselves after Bergeron. You know, not as flashy as like a McDavid or maybe an Ovechkin, but he does the job. He comes to play. He plays his position well. What more do you want from a player? Good old Canadian boy. The Bruins have talent. And then what to say about Pasternak? Pasternak loves to get nice, beautiful, nudie massages. He also likes to score goals. Okay? And Marchand, who has a nose that's the size of the Eiffel Tower. You know? I had a friend who would always joke that his nose would constantly put Marchand offside. Okay, but enough with the nose jokes. He's a good player. And I think at some point at the end of the second period, I don't know what he did. He got into a scrum with Tavares. Tavares landed on his ass. But you know, they have some good talent. They just always strike me as a middle of the road team. And Tuukka Rask, he's been kind of the whipping boy of the Boston Bruins. You know, if the team loses a game, they'll point the finger to Rask. If he gives up a goal, they'll blame him, even though you know sometimes it wasn't his fault. But then again, sometimes it is kind of his fault. He's an up and down goalie, in my opinion. But the thing is, they always strike me as a middle of the road team, and I think their greatest concern still lies sort of kind of in their defense because they have McAvoy. Let's put McAvoy aside. He's a true bona fide number one defenseman. But then they got Chara, who at times in this series, let's face it, he played like a 6'9" orange traffic cone. And which was hilarious. There's a moment in the series where Ennis hit him and it near about knocked him on his ass. And Ennis is what, 5'9", 5'10"? And he knocked down a 6'9" player almost on his ass. That was hilarious. But the thing is, he's not getting any younger. And Chara had a good season. I'll go as far as to say he had an underratedly good season for a guy his age in his 40s. But I think his age is starting to show now. And now that we get into the deeper in the playoffs. And what to say about Hyman, you know? The battles that Chara had with Hyman, at times it was incredible. And, you know, Hyman is the type of player that you hate it when your team plays against him, but you would want him on his team. Heck, I'll say it. I'm a Canadiens fan. I want a Hyman. I want Hyman on my team. Okay. Again, I don't know why I'm making things sound sexual. So anyway, that was my thoughts about Game 7 between the Bruins and the Leafs. I hope you guys like this recap or review or whatever you want to call it. You know, recapuccino for all I care. If you guys disagree with anything, you know, please put a comment. Let's open dialogue. Okay. Thank you for listening to this video. My name is Matt, and I'm signing off.